Hello SGD, this is a carry-on from an earlier video I did about the 40,000 vases found beneath the Stepped Pyramid of Djoser, the granite and diorite, and that this myth is false. But so there's a Stepped Pyramid. There are all these very elaborate tunnels and passages running underneath Imhotep Museum in Saqqara. And thanks to a viewer, Red Dark Bull, for supplying this. This is part of a display on the wall, and so where did this myth originate of 40,000 vases of hard stone, which people usually just take to mean granite? Well, it's here at the museum itself. More than 40,000 vases carved from hard stone were discovered in the galleries beneath the Stepped Pyramid. And just to highlight it, 40,000 vases carved from hard stone. Well, what is a hard stone? This could be argued, but also beneath the fuller display there also shows this map and these pictures. Now, you see the map on the side, maybe the resolution doesn't quite show, but it says from Lauer, this map, and from Lauer, this photo. So we'll look at the Jean-Pierre Lauer, 1939, in his book, volume, I think it was 35. Either way, link will be in the description to this. And amongst the maps and illustrations at the end is the Stepped Pyramid. So we see the pyramid itself, and then these shafts and the tunnels which lead underneath. And there you can see, you get an idea of the complex that runs underneath. Now it was here that the vases, well, let's be accurate, stone vessels were found. And the majority of those were alabaster, calcite. Well, all stone is hard anyway. But we'll look at that. So again, that's from Lauer again, and just another illustration of the design of a Stepped Pyramid and those tunnels underneath. And if we go back to that display there at the Saqqara Museum, you see this map here. I'll just flip it and orientate it. They're even pointing to these two galleries, and those are galleries 6 and 7, and they're even numbered, like 6 and 7, and one runs, so gallery 6 runs over the top of gallery 7 is another piece. So at the very top you see gallery 6 and gallery 7. You can see there gallery 7 is underneath gallery 6, but in number 7, amongst the illustrations, you even see that they've shown on what part of, so basically at the bottom of the shaft, all these vases were stacked. There's like a 33 metres, 108 feet down, and also on the top you can see gallery 6 has got the same piles of those vases there. Or stone vessels, let's be accurate, because they come in many shapes, but Quibble writes about this as well, and just to put the uninscribed dishes, if not broken, okay, but the important part, by December 34, about 2,225 boxes have been filled in the season, 3,116 in all. If we suppose the average contains 4 to 5 vases in fragments, some 15,000 already await reconstruction. Now, earlier also writes about, we'll see the photos in a minute. It was just, we'll just go through the photos, and but also a great point is the greater number by far are shallow bowls and dishes and are of alabaster. Now, let's just look at the photos of how these were found. These are from Gallery 6, and it's amongst there's vases, but it's piles and piles of broken pieces of dishes and shallow bowls, and that's why they're able to be stacked up so many. If there were 40,000 vases such as those, it'd be a lot large, it would be a very large area. And roof collapse. They were stored in they were put inside in boxes. These deteriorated. There was a roof collapse, and you can see they were just scraping them out with adze. Now, even now, what would you do with this? You know, like it's yeah, anyway, I've seen, allegations of cover-up because there's this trash outside the Stepped Pyramid when they did the renovation. Well, that's a hell of a job to do, try and make sense out of these pieces. Again, you can just see shallow bowls, dishes, and amongst them some of the vases. Now, the vases are better survive better because they've got really thick walls in comparison to those very thin, shallow dishes. And it's actually from this photo in Gallery 6 that the one in the museum is there, so you can see, compare those two, just do an overlay. Right, so 40,000 stone vessels, an estimate based on the number of shards. And again, just this was what they had to work with and come back. So out of these 40,000, they also said it was only about 100 pieces, museum quality, that were of special significance, and even most of those had to be reconstructed, rebuilt. And he talks about the workers and their exceptional memory, where they remember, 1 year ago I saw a piece that would fit that, but that's linked in the description too there. Now, we're in Gallery 6 still, but now we see A and C, not B, but they seem to be of the the volcanics like granite or a similar stone there, as opposed to the alabaster. Still, now we're in Gallery 7, December 33, and just you can see one of these. The darker dishes would be an indication that they're not alabaster or calcite, which has that very light colour. And I've got a better resolution one just to show. And here we have what appears to be one of the smaller diorite vessels, but again mostly dishes and bowls which can be made. We've got some demo videos where the second one, it took me like 5 hours to make one, so these would absolutely be able to be pumped out by any sort of individuals making them, but if it was done in a workshop environment, they would become every half an hour one would be coming off the production line if you only had like 5 or 6 people working it. But in this photo we start to see these more significant, important, the harder stones, granite and that type of stone. You can see those in the pile. That was in Gallery 7, this photo, which I also have notice this photo, we've just got the big black sheet in there in the background, and then we can see that it's exactly the same collection. They've just lowered the sheet there, and 30% seem to be alabaster there, and then we do have these harder stone vessels, and as they point out, these were exceedingly rare, and tend to be, well, Gallery 7 was probably the best single collection as far as I know of any one place. There are other tombs where they find these extraordinary types of stone vessels, but it was here underneath at Saqqara, the sheer number of them as a whole, but alabaster dishes and bowls, but also these larger pieces of alabaster and these other things. So the worldwide collection comes nowhere near close to what many people would assume. This is another photo. So there was just piles and piles of these broken pieces. They brought them out into boxes, and then started the monumental task of trying to repiece and put as many as they could back together. As it says, they were focusing on the ones that were exceptional in being very ornate, or the ones that had carved inscriptions on them. And again, so just here in this piece, he just talks about the workers and their amazing memory to put these, find the shards and put them back together. But also this photo, you can see how they were rebuilding these pieces, and with a focus on these larger, more nicer museum pieces, you also get an idea of how thick these ones are. But these are all alabaster. But also note, so in the background, see the window, and the window. So this photo here was taken in this courtyard. You can just by looking at the masonry and the windows. And so anyway, also amongst that collection, and this is in the Lauer as well, where he goes through the nicer pieces. Now that one is one of these famous ones. You can see there how it was found in pieces, very similar to the Sabu disc, the trilobe disc. It was put back together, and that's what the piece looks now like. And I think it's the Cairo Museum. It was maybe in the British Museum, I'm not sure, but that's the piece there, and that was a good photo because these are one of the ones I want to do a remake one myself with primitive backwood tools, but just also to get a good idea of the undercut and the shape of the plant. Big storehouse with I'll putting the pieces in, storing up all those shards, and also we've just got a nice collection of more exceptional pieces there. These large alabaster ones with the rope carvings on them, and these are some of the mainly the diorite, the harder stone versions. I think that one's in the Petrie Museum. Alright, but these, what's important, and also just as a correction from the last video, I looked at this one and thought it might be this piece, but it's actually this piece. It's metasilt stone, not this this is beautiful piece, but I think this one's actually very small. I've got to get the exact figures on it, but it's actually this piece that I was meaning to show. And so we have these collections, and so it's a British museum in Chicago, Boston, Petrie Museum, Saqqara and Cairo. There are only a few places, and then there are private collectors as well, but the number of these extraordinary, this granite type stone ones is nowhere near what many people believe and what I was sort of led to believe, but not to, so, okay. So that's this video. I just wanted to show that the actual Lauer and the team who did these and what they had to go through for the pieces that we do have. It was a lot of rebuilding. Find in amongst all that big piles of wreckage, and I had to try keep these all together. And these are type of vases that have provenance. So there was still is a forgery market, and so it's these type of ones that really need to be looked at and used as the examples, not okay, we'll go to that later, that's something else, but I'm sure if you're familiar with what's been happening, the moving of the goalposts. So those are the photos. That's what was going. There wasn't 40,000 vases, 40,000 stone vessels and alabaster. Wax someone on the head with a chunk of alabaster, they're going to say I was hit with a hard stone. Alrighty, so that's it for this video. I'll put a little piece at the end from the Imhotep Museum where there's a nice collection of those vases as well. With that, SGD, and have a good one.
يوسف هو ده الشيست صح؟
ما قلنا بالشيست.
ها؟
ما قلنا بالشيست.
قلنا مش شيست خلاص.
سيلت ستون.
سيلت ستون؟ اوكي.
هو بيقول على شيست. بس هو مش شيست.
بس مكتوب هنا شيست.
ايوه مكتوب هنا شيست. بقول لك مش مكتوب هنا شيست.
اوكي فهمت، يعني ده اختلاف
في الآراء.
ودي الفازات اللي لقوها جوه الهرم مظبوط؟ ده زي الكرسي بتاع الشيشة. بتاع الشيشة.
cylinder seal. No, cylinder seal.